Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Greg Campisi, director and founder of AWAKEN Center for Human Evolution. I am no stranger to being here at Circle, but yet every time I have to get up here and speak, I'm a little nervous and I feel a little fear tingling through me. And that's okay. And it's perfect because that's how we are starting today. And that's how all of this information I'm about to share with you started and came through. Because we are no stranger to fear, none of us. There's a lot of fear in the world today. But I'm not just talking about the big fears. I'm not talking about where we get trapped into thinking there's going to be another world war. I'm not talking about financial collapse. I'm talking about the more personal fears. And for me, I was tired of those personal fears of self-doubt, of self-worth, of just worry, just anxiety. These are things that we carry with us all the time, every day, some of us every moment. And for me, I was a little tired of it and I wanted to do something about it. And so I did what I do when I need help. I called on help. I called in help. I set a strong intention. It was a nice quiet evening. Me and my wife were at home and I set this intention. How do I release fear? How do I release fear? And as I journeyed into it, it was followed by 3 hours of channeled information that blew my mind and brought in an awareness that changed everything, that shifted everything about how I see myself, how I see all of you, how I see all of humanity, and how I see the world. And it began with a vision of me as a small boy in the corner of a small cave, huddled up and afraid. And we're no stranger to the feeling of fear, but there was something different about this. I wasn't just a little boy in a cave feeling afraid. I was feeling something else. I was feeling an energy pressing down on me. I was feeling an energy all around me that was making me feel small. I wasn't just a small boy. I was feeling small from this pressure. And what I realized was this was the energy of fear. And the energy of fear had a property to it, and it was a density to it. So what I was feeling wasn't just fear as a concept in our mind. I was feeling a density. I was feeling condensed. And it's amazing how often our language already tells us everything we already need to know. We've already been saying everything in so many different ways with so many little keys and secrets worked in there, but yet they're obvious. They're also obvious. And so I was feeling condensed and realized that sometimes we'll say that certain emotions are bad or good or positive or negative, but this wasn't about being in fear, being bad. This wasn't about being in fear, being something negative. It was about understanding it from a physical level. We live in the physical world. And so the energy was condensing, and that's why we feel small. And when we talk about the physical world, part of the information that came through was this beautiful revelation and understanding that everything around us already tells us everything we need to know. And so when we talk about the physical world, it comes in 3 states of matter. There's solid, there's liquid flowing, and there's gas, very airy and light and expansive. And that's going to play a very important part into what I'm telling you. We'll get to it in a moment. So there I am, curled up in my little ball, feeling afraid, feeling condensed. And I knew that there was more to this. I knew there was something else. The fear was attached to something else. It was attached to something deeper and denser. And that deeper, denser thing that fear was around and part of and feeling and feeding and coming out of was trauma. We all have trauma. And again, just like there's these different levels of fear, there's different levels of trauma. Because sometimes we talk about trauma and we think about the big traumas like physical and sexual abuse. And there's sadly a lot of people that have experienced that, but there's a lot of people that haven't. I've been very fortunate in my life that I haven't experienced anything that extreme, but it doesn't mean I don't have trauma. But part of my issue was kind of blinders on because I was traumatized in different ways, and I don't really consider them trauma. I don't really consider myself traumatized, but if I wasn't traumatized, I wouldn't have all this fear. So part of it is just understanding the levels of it and being honest with ourselves. So now my vision shifted to me being a boy being yelled at by my father. And in that moment, I was traumatized. I was traumatized by the energy of his anger. And he wasn't a bad person. He was an amazing person. But like all parents, sometimes you pop. Sometimes you're triggered by your kids. And so there he was yelling at me. There I was being traumatized. And so just like fear was a dense condensing energy, the way trauma was shown to me was it was shown to me as an even denser energy. And once again, the physical world reflects this for us. In the physical world, the most dense phenomenon in the universe is a black hole. And it is so dense and has such an immense gravitational pull that light cannot even escape. That's why it's a black hole. Light cannot even escape. And the reason I tell you this is because when we're traumatized, we end up with a black hole in our energy field. So fear is a dense energy blocking the flow of our life force and our energy. Trauma is such a dense energy that it is literally sucking the light out of us and the life out of us. And that's why when so much of us are in fear and in trauma, we feel so drained, we feel so small, and we feel like we're dying, because in a sense we are. And when we think of our physical bodies, we have our arteries, right? What happens when they get filled with density, when they calcify, right? It restricts the flow of blood. And when we don't have the flow of blood, we can literally die. And same thing with the air. If we restrict the flow of air, what happens? We can die. And what's happening to us energetically is we're restricting the flow of our energy. And for lack of a better term, it's slowly killing us. It's slowly draining the creative life force energy of the universe that is part of everything and part of us and part of life. It is life itself. And when we block that flow of energy, we feel it. We feel it, and it slowly kills us. And it slowly drains our light. And so this is the experience that was coming through, so I could really understand the impact of fear on us and trauma on us. And the funny thing is, so also when it comes to trauma, a lot of times there's a little bit of an extreme where we have the big traumas, and they're so big that we can't deal with them, we can't look at them because they're too scary, they're too traumatizing. And just the thought of them triggers us, and that's why there's PTSD. And so they're hard for people to really look at and feel and let go and work through. But the other end of the spectrum, a little closer to where I fall, is where the traumas are so subtle, you kind of don't even believe them. You kind of even don't even think you have them. Me, I'm not traumatized. What are you talking about? I'm fine, you know? But it's there, it's in there, it's in there. And what I feel is the lack of energy. What I feel is the lack of flow. And it's all connected to that fear and that trauma. And even when we are trying to hide it from ourselves and trying to hide it from others, because we're wonderful at that, we're wonderful at not looking at things, especially things that we probably need to look at the most. The universe is a lot more helpful than sometimes we want it to be. And even when we're trying to hide something from ourselves and everyone else, it still comes out. It comes out through our triggers. It comes out through our reactions. And the way this was shown to me was a bruise. When you get hit, you get a big black and blue on your arm or wherever. What happens if you have that bruise, especially if it's fresh, and someone else comes and starts poking at it, starts hitting it, it hurts. It hurts, that fresh wound. So somebody pokes it a little bit, you react, ow, hey, don't touch. They come at you again, no, don't touch. What happens? We protect ourselves. We protect ourselves because we don't want to feel that pain again. We don't want it poked. But what we don't understand is that the people that are poking us, the people that are triggering us, they're messengers from the universe saying, here, right here is where the density is clogging your energy, clogging the flow of your life force. They're just here to help us, to point it out. But we are afraid to feel, we are afraid to look at it, we are afraid to let it go, and so we defend. And one of the other ways we defend, not only when we're hurt, but also when we're initially traumatized, is we don't want to feel it again. So we actually shift our own energetic field to densify, to calcify, to protect ourselves. If you're a king, what do? You build a castle, you build a moat, right? You build walls, you build all these defenses. But the misconception of protection is that when we build all these dense ways of protecting ourselves, we block out the universe, we block out existence, and we also trap whatever's inside of us. And so we build these walls, and when the big bad wolf comes huffing and puffing saying, "Let me in," we think we're protecting ourselves by keeping it out. And what we didn't understand was all energy wants to do, all creation wants to do, is keep moving and keep flowing and keep creating. When there's something at our door banging to come in, it's not about it coming in, it's about it coming through. We're here to just allow creation and experience to flow through us. We're not here to stop it. We're not here to stop creation. We're not here to stop existence. We're here to experience it, and we experience it by letting it flow. And every time we have fear, and every time we have trauma, and every time we have walls, we're stopping the flow of energy and creation. We're supposed to just let it flow through. You don't want it? That's fine. You let it keep going by. If there's a bull charging at you, are you going to stand in front of it to try to stop it? Or are you just going to move out of the way and let it move on its way? I suggest letting it move on its way. We're not here to keep stopping creation. And when we have this density, when we have these walls and these triggers and these reactions, what's happening is it's all blockages. It's all density that we're taking on, and it's all hiding who we are, who we really are. And when you look at children, you understand when we came in, we were all children once. We came in free and happy and allowing energy to flow, allowing life to flow, not getting stuck, not getting weighed down, not getting calcified and not being dense. Children understand that. Children understand that. And children, part of the message that the children bring to us is to help us release the density. So what happens is we come in as a child, happy, free, innocent, and our parents carry their unhealed fears and traumas, and they haven't dealt with it, they haven't let it go, they haven't released it, they haven't lightened it up, and so they end up passing it on to us. Because when we put up those walls, so let's say I want to block out anger because I was traumatized by anger and I can't take it. I don't want to feel any anger anymore. So I have my wall up against anger. But if somebody's angry and it's coming at me, right? Again, we get defensive. It's just coming at me because they're trying to get rid of it. They're trying to let it go. They don't know how to deal with it. And I'm trying to take it personally, thinking it's against me, and it's not. I'm supposed to just let it go. I'm supposed to help them heal it. But I have my wall up and their anger hits my wall. The energy, because we're not letting it through, because we're resisting something, it just keeps banging at our door. And it literally drives us insane. It literally drives us insane when we're trying to stop something, when we're trying to prevent something and not experience something. And so what happens is we send it away. We send it out, we project it. And this is happening on two fronts because we're seeing what's coming at us and blocking it and trying to push it back out. But we've also trapped it inside of us. So because I am ignorant and trying to pretend that anger doesn't exist anymore because I don't want to feel it because I was traumatized by it, I'm also locking the anger inside of me. And that anger also builds pressure within me and eventually erupts if I'm not letting it out. So now we live in a world where anytime we haven't healed our traumas and our fears and our density, we end up passing it on to someone else. And typically we pass it on to those closest to us. And typically we end up passing it on to our children. And this is generational pain. This is generational trauma. But here's the thing is, on the other side, it's a different perspective. On the other side, the souls of the children look down, and what they see is density. What they see is unhealed pain. What they see is a human that came in free and light that took on too much density. And so they make a choice from the other side. Our children make a choice from the other side to say, Mom, Dad, I see where you're stuck. I see where you're dying. I see where you're no longer flowing, where you have covered yourself, you have hidden yourself. I'm coming in to help. And so the soul comes down and is literally birthed through the parent and comes into the parent's life to help them restore the flow of life and restore the flow of life and creative energy. And that's why kids are so good at triggering us. That's why kids are so perfect at hitting that spot with their parents. And the parents, being in that pain and trauma, don't really understand what's happening. And what's really happening is the child is saying, here, right here, Mom, right here, Dad, this is where you're stuck. This is where you're holding on to the density. This is where you're blocked. This is where you've blocked yourself, your love, your own beingness. And the child comes in poking and poking and poking. What usually happens is, instead of that parent understanding and thanking the child and releasing what needs to be released and lightening up what needs to lighten up, they usually end up passing on the pain and the trauma because they don't know what to do with it, because they weren't taught how to do it, how to deal with it. And so it goes from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. But again, we're talking about things on an energetic perspective. And when we look at things from an energetic perspective, things shift. It gives us a different view of things. Because when we take on that density and that calcification, all it is a shift in our energetic field. All it is a shift in the state of our being. And this is how easy it is to shift out. Look at a piece of ice. What is the difference between ice and water and vapor? It is the exact same substance from an atomic standpoint. The difference is its particles are either close together or spaced out. And when we talk about lightening up, we understand that concept from a mental point of view because we've used it for so long. Hey, lighten up, and high vibrations, right? And low vibrations. But this is what's actually happening, is when you have something dense, this isn't about judging it. We don't say a rock is bad because it's dense, but it's a lower vibration, it's a lower frequency, it's tighter particles. And as the rock loosens up, it begins to flow. It becomes water. And water is fluid. But anyone that's ever done a belly flop into a pool understands that water still has resistance. Even water still has some resistance. So the next state, as water lightens up, as water particles space out, it becomes water vapor. And how much resistance does air have? Almost nothing. And so that's the perspective for us to take when we approach ourselves and our life and our energy and approach how we see others. Understand that this isn't who you really are. You aren't a rock, but you have shifted your energy and taken on dense energy that has solidified you. And you're not flowing as much as you used to. And you're also not allowing as much of your own light to shine. Because we go back to the cave, to where it all started. The cave was dark. Why is the cave dark? Because solid rock walls do not allow light to pass through, because their particles are too close together. And so two rocks cannot pass through each other. They just bang against each other from the surface, chipping, breaking, banging, right? liquid can experience itself. Two liquids can flow together, can mingle together. Air, anything passes through. So when we take this and we look at it from a standpoint of our belief systems, when you run into somebody who has solid beliefs, stubborn beliefs, my mom used to say I was thick-headed, and that plays a whole new meaning for me now, right? Our words were always there. Stubborn, stuck, dense. There's a reason, because it was us energetically. So when two people are fighting, they're in their own stuck density around a belief. But here's the thing that is important for all of us to understand, is that when there's two solids banging together, only one of them needs to lighten up. What happens to a rock in water? It falls right through. What happens to a rock in air? It falls right through. So if there was two pieces of ice hitting each other and one of them melts, that other piece of ice is no longer banging into that first piece of ice. When we choose to lighten up, we stop the resistance, we stop the friction, and we allow the rest of existence to pass through us. Just like water allows solid to pass through, just like air allows solid to pass through. So when we approach things from an energetic standpoint and a mental standpoint, as we lighten up our thoughts and we shift ourselves, the density doesn't weigh us down anymore. It doesn't trap us anymore. And this is what the children have been trying to show us and trying to tell us. But here's the thing, is that child, when it comes down, it knows it's coming into density. It knows it's coming in, wanting to help release the parents and knowing that if it can't, that it might be taking it on. And each generation comes in trying to free the density, and each generation comes in trying to release the density. And I promise you that it's moving. The energy is moving. Even if it's only a little bit, I promise you that your parents had a tougher life than you did, and their parents had a tougher life than they did, because each generation, as we move, as we're born into the new energy, each generation is a little lighter and has a little more awareness and moves a little more energy and moves a little more freely and accepts a little bit more about the world. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at, is we are looking at generations of pain, and we are looking at trauma and fear being passed down from one person to the next, passed on from one person to the next. And the difference between passing it on again and releasing it is a choice. We have the choice here and now if we want to be the rock, or if we want to flow like water, or if we want to be as light as air. It is our choice. It is in our hands. And as we lighten up, we pave the way for the next generation. Imagine if everyone alive today was able to let go of all the fear and the trauma that they were holding on to. Imagine if they no longer passed it on to the future generations. That would allow the space for all the new generations to come in without having to take on the trauma and the fear, without having to spend their whole life trying to figure it out, trying to release it, and they can actually focus on shifting the world for the greater good out of love. Because who we are never leaves. It never goes away. That flame that we walled in, the reason the world out there doesn't see our light is because it's trapped behind our density. Our light isn't gone. It's just walled in behind the density. And so if we want to see less darkness in the world, it's up to us to shine more light into it. And we do that by letting go of our density, letting go of our fears, letting go of our traumas, and lightening up and allowing our true essence to shine through again. Thank you.